Ozpin Salem, Ozpin Salem, la-di-da-di-da-di-da. Let them have their squabble. If Salem has won in the past and the world ended up fine, then it's obvious that humanity's destruction is not her goal. So then, what is? I'm Mediocrity4, and this is my review for RWBY Volume 5, Episode 3. If you haven't seen the episode yet, you may want to before watching this review. Unforeseen. Not anticipated or predicted. Complications, something that adds to difficulty. I'm using the hacks method of defining terms simply because I'm sure you guys know what an unforeseen complication is, but I don't think the writers do. An unforeseen complication would be...
Nobody expects the Spanish Inquisition!
What we got here was Alia spouting off anti-I mean wifing rhetoric we've heard before, Weiss' family legacy being thrown in her face, and Team Ranger making more detailed plans on what they already said they were going to do. I'll start with my favorite punching bag and just make a joke that this is the best Blake scene since Volume 2 and also the only one where she doesn't open her pretentious pie hole. I'm a little confused as to the timeline placement of all this, and it's unclear how well Menagerie can communicate with Mistral. Then again, I'm trying to accept the timeline as something we're never going to get, and I'm just going to have to stew in my hatred for Miles forever. The speech itself is fine. Both Gira and Ilia present a well-rounded presentation of the argument. I don't think it's going to really go anywhere since the people of Menagerie are just normal people living their lives. But if Gira's speech reaches the ears of other White Fang members, maybe it'll throw a wrench in Adam's plans. Maybe not. I can't believe I'm saying this, but I'm actually interested to see how this goes, especially if Blake keeps her mouth closed. I'm also confused as to how the bandits plan on ransoming Weiss. My guess is they're going to use Raven's portals, because if Ironwood pulled all his people out and closed the border, then, well, portals are the only way through. On that note, I don't believe Winter is actually out of Mistral, but I also don't think she's coming for Weiss either, which will pay off her line from the trailer. Just think about what Ironwood said in Volume 4. He's not going to stand by and let something happen in Mistral. I think he learned his lesson from Volume 3 and is keeping several of his best people in Mistral ready to spring whenever Salem strikes. I also think these same huntsmen are going to join up with Crow for their mission. Which brings me to the Ranger segment. The nature of Oscar and Ozpin is more confusing now. And maybe all this confusing exposition is the unforeseen complication, adding difficulty in this volume turning out as coherent as Volume 4. It seems pretty clear after my second viewing that Ozpin and Oscar's soul will merge as one. In his words, he is the combination of countless souls who have fought to save Remnant. My problem is that mindjacking isn't his semblance, and Team Ranger finds it weird. Weird. In a fantasy setting, what even is that? This is a pet peeve of mine, like in Dragon Ball where the King of Earth is a dog, yet Bulma finds Goku's monkey tail weird. Or in this case, RWBY, whose uncle semblance is bad luck and knows about the maiden powers, finds it weird that someone can switch bodies. I also despise the Rose Garden teases, but I won't rule out my bias. I do have one more question. Why didn't Ozpin care to be a decent enough teacher when Beacon was still up and running? I mean, nearly every character got actively worse after attending Beacon. Also, 2 months before school starts back up. Did everyone take a year off? How does Ozpin even know that? Why does he think Salem will strike before that when her last plan was executed at the point of maximum huntage in Vale? So there wasn't anything wrong per se. In fact, I have to hand it to this episode for making me care about Oscar for the first time. On the technical side, the composition was pretty nice, though I detected some Toei level corner cutting in some places. Like all the still frames where no one is moving, jumpy animation with Nora, not animating Ilia's escape, things like that make me question the supposed tripled budget. And thank God that this episode is in Maya, because I can only imagine how insufferably dull this episode would be if it was still in Poser. The biggest problem is that nothing actually happened. Everyone just ran in place. That happened a lot in Volume 2, but after the second half of Volume 3 and most of Volume 4 and the previous 2 episodes, it's extremely disappointing for the breaks to be put on like this. If I wanted to see nearly 20 minutes of spinning in place, I'd give Black Clover a watch, or rewatch some Dragon Ball. And since I'm not at my limit, I want to address the episode runtime. I feel like I'm in the minority here, but one of the key factors in RWBY's success, whether you want to admit it or not, was its runtime. The fact that so few episodes are longer than 15 minutes led to entire volumes only lasting a few hours. This means that there was always a low time entry. Someone getting into the series can catch up in a single day. If 20 minutes becomes the norm, it's going to lose that accessibility, especially if this is how they use the runtime. More and more people are just going to drop the show entirely. Then what? I'm Mediocrity4. Thanks for watching.